Challenge night, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the judges as well. They're kind of the unsung heroes of this event. We tell them up front that the pay stinks and the hours are weird, and they come in they play a huge role at every turn of this event. They help us pick the nonprofits. They check in with teams at the end of the event and get a baseline understanding of what happened during Web Challenge weekend. And then they take a really deep dive with the links that you guys have submitted, and just kind of look at every nook and cranny and really assess the week. So two of the judges are out of town traveling. They're busy people, which is all the more reason to thank them for their time. Paul Semper couldn't be here, and Chris from Kindle Communications. But Cynthia's here, and thank you very much, Cynthia, for being a judge 3 years now. You guys, that's huge, huge commitment. So very, very much appreciated. This evening, I don't have much more to say except thanks and thanks again. We're going to have you guys come up here one at a time, and if the nonprofit wants to say a few words about what happened while the team's setting up their computer, awesome. Otherwise, I'll give you guys the hook after 8 minutes. If you want, the team can drive, just show the site, just kind of click around, tell us what happened. If you want to do it in 3 minutes, fine. If you want to take all 8, awesome. But there's a Wi-Fi password that is Expresso, 3Expresso. So that's what you need to plug in with up here. And other than that, who wants to go first?
I want to give Matt and Brett thanks too, because I know myself at like 5 a.m. I have very mouthy, and I was just blurting out obscenities late into the night. So you guys put up with a lot of crap, and thank you guys. You guys were great to work with. This is the original site, ideaco.org. Mandy was our UX developer on the site, and I'm going into Matt's mail. So, unfortunately, we don't have UX here to discuss the opening stages of the process, but we took what we could from what the site already had, and we tried to make something that is flashier. I feel like that's kind of the OWC thing. It sounds like this was my first time doing a overnight website challenge, and it seems like we want to make things kind of just pop and kind of get out to the client. We take a pre-existing site that's maybe just, it's there and it's getting the job done, but it's not doing what a professional web developer would get done if you gave them the time to do it. So myself and the other developers, I'm not going to go through all you guys' names because I know I'm going to forget one of you, so I feel bad. But I had a great team. There was a lot of us, it was our first time, and we just really had a lot of fun. It was a great experience for me, and I got to know a lot of the guys that I hadn't really gotten to know that well. So in terms of that, it was a great time. This is our homepage for the new site. As you can see, it's kind of just in your face. We had a lot of different feature requests, I guess. The big ones really were getting like payment processing down, so we ended up using Stripe as a third-party kind of wrapper, so we could abstract that away from the site. We also had a request to have Google Maps integration, which I'm going to show you in a second because that was kind of one of our flashier things that John Berube did a great job on. We kind of just said, John, this is your thing. He took it and he just went with it, and you guys are going to see he did a great job, so congrats to John. And our front-end team took a theme for WordPress, which is what we built this in. We picked WordPress because it was kind of like a rapid development environment, like a framework and platform that we could just get to use. Everybody that we had was a PHP developer. We didn't really want to go with Drupal, and nobody wanted to learn Django in 24 hours, so we went with WordPress, and it provides the client a nice back end and easy way to kind of just do content management. So I'm going to just kind of scroll through here. Some of the, I guess, flashier things were just, if I, Gary Cole, am a change maker. then you're able to kind of just fire off some tweets, sign up for updates. So right off the bat on the home page, you're able to get MailChimp integration and get your email addresses from your clients into the, your MailChimp subscription campaigns. The other big pieces that we had were a request to, like I said, integrate maps. So we took a lot of the content types and we enabled you to kind of tag locations, and there was a pre-existing kind of like skinned map that they wanted to pull, and we had John kind of find a way to make that work within Google Maps, and the end result turned out to be pretty cool. Personally, I didn't even know you could skin Google Maps that easily, and John got it done in a couple hours, and it ended up looking pretty good. Our next steps right now, we finished a lot in 24 hours. Like I said, we didn't really know what we were getting into. Most of us haven't done it before. I'm really impressed with what we did get done. Next steps right now, most of us work together at the Nerdery, and we got together once to kind of go through some bugs that came back from the client. And we are going to get together again. The site's responsive, and we have a couple mobile tweaks that we need to get done still. But other than that, it was a great experience. Loved working with you guys, and that's pretty much the site. The only other things I didn't show you were a blog, which I'm sure everyone's going to have, and just some specific programs that IdeaCo runs. And that's about it.
Well, Ellen's setting up. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Sharon Perlman, co-founder and president of the Colon Cancer Alliance for Research and Education for Lynch syndrome. I have a question for you. Anybody ever hear of Lynch syndrome before? That's precisely why we founded our nonprofit organization. Approximately 800,000 Americans have Lynch syndrome, and 1.2% of those know they have Lynch syndrome. It's the most common hereditary cause of uterine colon cancer. It's also responsible for a number of other types of cancers as well, and it affects younger people. When you think of those diseases, you should generally think about people who are collecting Social Security and not people who are still in school or have young families. My mother had Lynch syndrome. She had both uterine and colon cancer. My son died of brain cancer. I'm a uterine cancer survivor. My sister had colon cancer and died of it when she was 42. My brother had metastatic colon cancer. My niece had colon cancer. And we didn't know about this disease at all. And it was a real problem. Now that we know about it, we want to spread the word and educate others, because the more you know about it, the more you can do about it and save lives. Knowing that you have it, you get the right chemotherapy, you get the right treatment. Yes, you have to get colonoscopies every year. I just had one on Friday, and I get to keep my colon for yet another year, which is great. But it's the difference between life and death, literally. And so I am thrilled to have this opportunity to participate in the Nerdery, and I want to give my utmost gratitude to Ellen and Wi-Fi Pizza. And I want to let you know that Ellen is not only an expert in website development, but she's also a family therapist. My brother and I have very strong personalities. We have very strong and passionate goals and objectives, and sometimes we're not always on the same page, and that makes it quite challenging for this event, and they handle this so well. So thank you, Ellen.
Thank you. So I'm gonna talk real quickly about what we did. So we were the Wi-Fi pizza machines, and if you see the lovely V logo, that is the logo from Focal Interactive, where I presently work. And a few years ago, somebody pointed out, like, is that a Wi-Fi hotspot or a slice of pizza? And ever since, nobody in my company has been able to see that. So we are now Wireless Pizza is our softball team, apparently also our team name here. CCARE Lynch is the Colon Cancer Alliance for Research and Education for Lynch Syndrome. I will be referring to it as CCARE Lynch because that's a lot shorter. As Sharon said, Lynch syndrome is a genetic disorder that, unlike other hereditary cancers, can cause a lot of different types of cancer. Sharon talked a lot about how this has affected her family and the deaths that they've had in their family and the issues that they've had, that Neil and Sharon both had personally. The biggest thing about Lynch syndrome is that it's not even very well known within the medical community. Only 17% of doctors are actually even aware that this exists. So there are a couple of different audiences that we have to show. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the before here. Let's see if I can do this. So this is the website before. It was densely packed with a lot of text. There were occasional bits of information, and all of the information in terms of what you wanted in terms of cancer screening was kind of a little bit smaller and over on the side, and it was sometimes a little bit hard to figure out where things were in terms of information architecture. So we had a few challenges in putting this together. Obviously, we needed to address two audiences of really different education levels. Doctors who want everything at the postgraduate level so that they can immediately go and take action based on the recommendations of the various organizations that make them for this disease. And then also for patients, so that patients can understand, you know, a patient doesn't necessarily know what an oophorectomy is, which is a removal of the ovaries as sort of a preventive measure to prevent ovarian cancer. But so we had to create something that would appeal to both doctors and patients. We also obviously needed to revamp the information architecture to make the most pertinent info easier to find. We need to make the site responsive. And then CCARE Lynch is also in the process of producing some public service announcements that Neil is starring in. And what Neil in particular was looking for was a place where people could land from that to be able to sort of learn more about Lynch without getting freaked out. Because, you know, this like, hey, there's a hereditary cancer thing that can possibly do all of this awful stuff is something that can be a little bit freaky to people. So we've taken the site and we've made it sort of much friendlier, much more responsive. I'm going to go and okay. So this is now the site. We have, you know, a really clear mission, clear information about what type of person are you, a family or a physician, and, you know, some information about events and stuff. Always in the footer call-outs to all the social media. You know, information for families and physicians is very clearly in that top bar. That's always persistent. You know, we've simplified the design considerably to really focus on the information. You can see that in the family section, you know, everything is a little bit more broken up. You can get more information in particular for women with Lynch syndrome, particularly because it's initially it was initially tagged with colon cancer, but it is now also tagged with a number of other things. So for the physicians and other healthcare providers, you've got sort of we have these sort of sub-navigations where you can sort of see like, okay, we're still working on the coloring on this, but you know, you can see the information in terms of, you know, what do you need to tell your patients who might potentially have this. And so, you know, what we really wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that we could give everybody the information that they needed in order to make sure that they were able to get not just the information for themselves, but to have someplace where they can direct their physician for more information. Because I think one of the things that was a concern with some of the public service announcements is, again, because only 17% of doctors have heard of this, they, you know, if you go into a doctor and say, I think I might have Lynch syndrome, they go, what the hell is Lynch syndrome? So to have something that's a really good, you know, there's a number of places where you can download more information about Lynch syndrome or print something out to bring with you to your doctor, so that your doctor can immediately go and find out more about this disease. So yeah, that's what we wound up doing. We're still, like I said, we're still screwing around with some front end stuff. We definitely were a stronger team in terms of back end developers than front end developers. So CSS is not as much of our friend as we would like it to be. But yeah, like we're really happy with where we've been able to get this over the last couple of weeks, and you know, I think particularly we moved to WordPress, and that should be you know, a lot easier to maintain for Sharon and Neil. Neil was previously maintaining the entire site through Dreamweaver, so that should make it a lot easier for them to add new content and manage their existing content. So real happy about that, and
I am the marketing director for the Higher Learning Network, which started out as an organization to teach kids behind the scenes radio, television, and print production, my background. And kids were always coming into the television station, to the radio station for the tours, but they didn't have a clue about the business of radio, so we decided to take them behind the scenes to show them what else was available besides being the on-air job. Well, as a result of that, the parents got involved, and it became it was the Youth Empowerment Network. And then after the parents got involved, it became the Professional Women's Empowerment Network. Well, the kids started coming back, so we couldn't change it back to the Youth Empowerment Network, so we changed it to, voila, the Higher Learning Network. So what we do is a variety of things. We still teach kids behind the scenes, radio, television, print production. We produce a cable show called the Higher Learning Network, TV show, and Man on Higher Learning on Channel 19 Sundays at midnight. I don't expect you to be up because I'm not, but you can always watch it on YouTube or video. We also teach a variety of courses like how to start your own business, become an entrepreneur, or update your job skills, self-publishing, marketing. We do a lot of things. And we were just all over the place, and we needed some direction. I saw an email online, someone sent me something and says, you guys need a new website. So the Nerdery introduced us to Productive Edge, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Zelda.
Thank you.
Well, before we were ever introduced to Zelda, we started thinking about how we could best leverage our skill technically with the site. So prior to knowing anything about what the site would be about, we knew whoever ended up with it had to be able to edit it. So we were thinking content management system, and we had a real bang-up team of .NET developers. So we looked for the best .NET content management system we could find, which we found to be .NET Nuke. It's stable, it's trusted in the technical community, and it has plenty of extendable modules that we could use flexibly for whatever was thrown our way. The nice thing about it is it also offers in-page editing. So someone like Zelda can come in and get what you see is what you get editing. There's no mystery to it. So once we came in with our tech strategy, we also had to figure out how we were going to present the site. And as Zelda said, she's been doing a lot of things. And you can see from the website, there's HLN TV, there's a blog, there's services. But there wasn't really a strong call to action or definition of the training, the broad network. Higher Learning Network empowers individuals to reach their fullest potential through education. And it brings job training skills, life training skills, and inspirational guidance to those who can pull themselves into a better life. HLN embodies those organizational values by producing their television shows and showcasing individuals who have done just this. So that when you're sitting and trying to figure out how do I better my life, you can actually see the people who've done it and be inspired to get to the next level. But now, how do you design for that? That's hard. We realized we needed to show our users how they would be empowered through websites. And the added twist is the average demographic, as Zelda explained to us, doesn't even trust the internet. So we needed to create a message of safety. What we did there is we picked imagery of real people working together. We picked warm colors, and we used the HLN's logo colors peppered throughout the site to show a world of color and optimism and hope. Next, we had to figure out how we would add value here. So the biggest one is we integrated with PayPal. So now Zelda can gather donations through the website, and this is a huge deal because prior to that, donations were coming in by hand in the form of check, cash, or money order. In addition, there was no real way to sign up for classes or purchase the products that they put together, such as the biggest package you could ever find on how to apply for grants and get money. Next, we incorporated her YouTube channel. Again, the idea of making sure that you had access to all of those inspired and empowered role models is important. So it's showcased on the website, and it has its own page in the site. We've also incorporated her Google blog with hundreds and hundreds of posts, her Twitter and Facebook accounts. So now her website is the hub for her entire online presence. Lastly, we've incorporated SEO to make the site searchable and built it on a responsive framework. We're still ironing out the last few kinks, but for the most part, we're almost there. And this is very important for her demographic because many of them do not have broadband at their home and use their cell phones as a sole means of accessing the internet. Lastly, we also wanted to make sure that we had a concise marketing strategy, so content was a huge deal. Finding the right message for the right user in the right way to make sure anybody who came to the site knew exactly that they deserved to be here. And to just say lastly that all of us loved our opportunity to work with Zelda and to share and deliver her message to the Chicago community. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.
So I'm Claire. I wrote the website alongside Sierra, and yeah, we had a great time. I think this was the first time I've ever received client-approved coffee in like 35 seconds, so it was fantastic. But yeah, just to start things off, we completely, revamped content from the ground up. There was a lot of wonderful facts and figures to work with, like what they were saying about the 30 million fewer words heard by lower income children versus higher income peers. So we had a lot of wonderful content to, this is online. Sorry guys. Thank you, great. So VOCEL stands for Viewing Our Children as Emerging Leaders, and they had a tagline, Building Leadership Through Language. So we kind of wanted to fuse those two messages and come up with something different and new that we thought evoked the spirit of the brand a little bit more. So we came up with redefining early education child by child. Very directly got to the idea of early education and then sort of fleshed out the details in the copy that we wrote throughout the site. And of course, we're using the tagline in a lockup, but here we thought it worked really nicely as sort of our hero headline. And from there, touching upon that idea of these wonderful bits of information, we really wanted to display them in a visual, really interesting way that also just is fun and child-friendly. All of the language was beautifully written to begin with, but we sort of revamped it in a way that felt accessible, really explained the different tiers of the organization, and made it really easy for people to understand. So, for example, the approach, this idea of plan, polish, and practice, really easy, always supporting things with visuals. Another thing that was really, really important was easy ways to get involved, so to invest, to volunteer, to partner. Sarah did a really beautiful job of breaking out these bits of content. Even just getting in touch. The girls were saying there's a lot of different things that people want to learn more about. They want to know how to volunteer, can they come to the classroom, how can they send along $25 or a big donation. So we wanted to make it easy for people to get in touch in different ways, and of course also sign up for news. And of course we really fleshed out all of our content in the different buckets that you'll see. We revamped information architecture, just sitting with them, finding out what were the kinks, what was most important, and we can of course get into all of that as we keep going through.
Hi, Anya. I'm part of the design team along with Anna and Ryan. And so BSA partners, I think we were a pretty eclectic group as far as the different disciplines that were reflected here. So we were all first time doing this kind of process. And so I think we took our traditional process with clients and kind of condensed it in a 24-hour period. And so part of this is typically with any client, and I think we were really excited about working with VOCEL because from a branding perspective, that's I think what a lot of us were really excited and interested in. And so meeting with Kelly and Jesse very quickly, like we realized it wasn't just like creating a website. We really wanted to help them kind of craft the whole experience kind of from the ground up. And so they kind of are so early in their organization, and so we knew that that was a good point where we could still help shape some of that. And so really we wanted to kind of take their identity as it existed, kind of evolved it based on the conversations we've had. And I think ultimately, just really quickly, like we wanted it also to reflect their kind of personality, because we felt like that was really at the heart of the organization. And so, oops. Like clearly not. And so this is kind of part of our typical process where what we really first wanted to do, because we knew that as a nonprofit, we wanted to create a lot of the assets kind of as illustrations and things that could be scalable and they didn't provide rights and usage for it. And so what we first wanted to do was kind of establish like a general tone. And so they had a color palette already. It's really hard to tell on this projection, but we just made some subtle shifts just to kind of warm up the palette and make it more friendly. And then we kind of expanded it so they had a more diverse palette to extend across all their applications. And then we kind of quickly put together like a mood board and walk them through just to make sure that they were comfortable with kind of this visual direction, and that would kind of be what we use to create our visuals.
The current website is very, 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 very text heavy. If you wanted to learn how we were founded in 1975 and read exactly about that meeting, you can find that. If you wanted to see, for example, a policy paper we wrote 4 years ago about expanding the Lakefront Trail, you can find that here too. And those are great things, but what you can't really do through this kind of a website is inspire people or help your current constituent base get involved. So what these guys asked us when we started was, who's your target? Who's your target audience? And we came up with this kind of hierarchy of almost constituent needs, hierarchy of, no, it's called the ladder of, whatever. Let's call it the ladder of park people. We want to hit park users, and then we want to move them into being park stewards. Then we want to move them into being park, where are we going? Park deputies is our idea here. So how do we do that? How can we get that? We have to serve a lot of different masters there, and this is what these guys had to figure out, was how to make us both inspiring, fun, accessible, and so if a funder comes to this site, they can see what we're about. If a urban planner comes to this site, they don't think we're just about hiking around with kids. If a parent comes to our site wanting to know about our hiking around with kids, they don't think we're just about writing policy papers.
Yeah, so Colin actually covered a lot of, sorry, what we talked about, make my talk a little easier. So yeah, when we sat down, we sat down with Colin and also their executive director, Cassandra, to find out exactly what they needed to get out of the website. As he mentioned, they were incredibly text heavy, so we wanted to kind of whittle that down a little bit. Also make that accessible in the end.
I think the guys, they're just being a little kind of low-key about it, but they basically built a customized CMS system. I mean, it was freaking awesome. And I worked on CMS systems for 10 years, and they made it customized for all of their needs, everything that they needed to input. They were gate-heavy, they had lists of parks that they needed to have there, they created all these modules for them.